Why is Litecoin a good metric for measuring Bitcoin? Given that Litecoin and Bitcoin are just nearly identical in terms of behavior, because Litecoin is essentially a clone of Bitcoin, right? With a couple of modifications.
Yeah.
Knowing that Litecoin is the same, then you can extrapolate whenever Litecoin pulls back is whenever Bitcoin pulls back.
Yeah.
And I mentioned this before where Bitcoin is very notoriously difficult to determine when it wants to pull back or go up or how much by.
Yeah.
But Litecoin is not. So one of the things that I discovered about Litecoin was that this is a general property of Litecoin. Every pump of Litecoin, it does at least 100%. Every pullback that it does during a bull market, it does at least a negative 38%. And every time it does a pullback on a bear market, it does a negative 7%. So given that these are the general characteristic of Litecoin, it makes it extremely easy to predict where the general market is going to head. You always have to look at one level higher than what everyone else is looking at, because those are the only key chances in which you're able to have a competitive edge over the rest of the people who are playing, right? So
yeah.
in most people's situation, they're looking at it like on a basic chart, right? Not understanding that inflation affects the price of the coin, not understanding that the US dollar affects the underlying value of the coin, not understanding all of these other massive underlying effects on a particular coin. So one of the things that you have to understand is that the US dollar inflation rate affects the price of many underlying assets a lot. Year by year it doesn't matter, but over a course of multiple years, the entire chart changes. Do you get what I'm trying to get at?
Yeah.
So one of the things you have to take out is the US dollar inflation rate, because especially now, given March, where they're just printing a lot of money, the entire chart looks different. So the chart difference between Litecoin as is, right, and without inflation looks like this. So I'm just going to cover this up. The hide all, right? This is how Litecoin looks like. I'll put it on the daily chart because the other one's in daily. So you have to see the sort of the magnitude of difference, right? This is how Litecoin looks like. Put it on the daily. This is how everyone sees Litecoin. This is how this is the tool. This is how I see Litecoin, right? And that's a huge difference, right? Notice that this is a massive difference. So so given that this is Litecoin without inflation, right? So one of the other things that like Litecoin production rate has 83%, right?
Yeah.
Ideally, in order for you to get the exact perfect chart, is to have the coin not produce anything. Because then it becomes extremely easy to predict.
Yeah.
Right. It's exactly to the T. But because Litecoin is still producing, then you would have to somehow remove that production rate outside of Litecoin.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? One of the questions is like, how do I know Litecoin was going to stop here, right? And if you understand Fibonacci, then you will understand that it was going to be 0.618. So you would have known where Litecoin was going to stop since December of 2018, essentially, right? So if I go ahead and hide all the drawings, sorry, I'm just going to go ahead and just delete everything for the time being. If I just did from top to bottom, and I was right here, right? Mm-hmm. Then I knew at some point in time, Litecoin was going to get stopped here. Do you get what I'm trying to get at?
Yeah.
At some point in time in the future, whenever Litecoin hits 0.618, you needed to get out, no matter what. You need to get out of crypto, no matter what. So if we go forward into the future, it hit here. And this is when the massive 70% drop. Do you get what I'm trying to get at?
Yeah.
So the same logic applies when it was down here to here, right? So you knew to get out of crypto, right, when it was down from here to here, at some point in time. At some point in time, when it hits this 0.618, you knew to get out. If I go ahead and go into the future, right? You would have known to get out here, right? Obviously, it's like, if you saw this price, right, you'd be like, oh, no, it didn't hit the price. It didn't hit the price exactly. It doesn't matter. It was close enough that you should have known to get out, right? Like, why are you gambling for what is this?
Like a small...
Like 1%, just because it's like, it needs to hit the 1%. I'm not going to get out, right? That's absolutely ludicrous. And this is what I mean by accounting for the difference in terms of Litecoin production, right?
Yeah.
Because Litecoin's producing, that's why there's still a variability in terms of you have to give us some leeway. Mm-hmm. And then the same thing is like there was another way to measure this top. All you had to do was just draw from here to here, from 0.618, and you will be able to predict it here. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So notice I matched this 0.618 to this high, right? And I matched this low to this low. So then you'll be able to predict the next part. So another way to look at it is, where is the next stop going to be in the future, right? Essentially, what I'm trying to say is that we're going to have another rally. We're going to have another rally as massive as this one for all of crypto, but the entirety of crypto will be stopped here. Do you get what I'm trying to get at?
Yeah.
So we're going to do some sort of movement all the way up here, and this would be equivalent from going up here to here.
Yeah.
So if we measured it from here to here, that would be the same sort of percentage gain. So let me try to measure it from here to here. That would be an 11x. I don't know if it's going to be that much this time around. 6x. So let me just draw from here to here. 8x. 6x, 7, 8x. Yeah, that seems about right. We might go down more. All I know is that once we get here, I don't care what anyone is saying. I'm getting out.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. You
just don't take that gamble.
Or did it didn't hit the high.
And you get anywhere within this vicinity, you get out.
Yep.
And you will not be mad. Nobody will be mad. Okay, so now I'm gonna go through each of Litecoin's properties, and then once you understand that, then you'll be able to more or less extrapolate where Bitcoin can go. So let's just go to Control Z all the way back, right? So just to summarize Litecoin's property, it was this one, right? Every time Litecoin pumps, it goes 100%. Every time it pulls back, it goes 70%. So just to do it quickly, so from here to here, I believe it's 100%, right? So from here to here, sorry, do it a little bit better. 180%. So just keep these percentages in mind, right? You can go from here to here as well. 167%. And before it has a massive pullback here. From here to here is 109. Massive pullback. From here to here is 111%. So and then from here to here is 100%. So we know that Litecoin won't really pull back unless it hits 100%, right?
Yeah.
So just keep that thought process in mind. If we go from here to here, 126%, and from here to here is 112%. So knowing that that's the property of Litecoin, right? We know that at any point that Litecoin decides to go up, it will not pull back. Crypto will not pull back until Litecoin finishes up at least 100%, right?
Yeah.
So you don't have to worry about any major pullback until Litecoin hits at least 100%. So if I go ahead and pull Litecoin up against Bitcoin, if you evaluate each date of Litecoin, it would correlate to whenever Bitcoin pulls back. So if I go ahead and look at right here, right? This is when the first major pullback occurred. This occurred on January 10th. Let's just say getting out. So for the sake of simplicity, let's just say getting out a day early, or the day of January 9th, January 10th, right? You're not gonna get mad if you get out here, right? January 9th. Yeah. Right, you got out here because again, you would rather be cautious than uncautious. Like you would rather be safe than not safe, right? Yeah. So once it hits around here, you're like, okay, it's around time for me to get out. You get out January 9th. Like, are you gonna be mad you got out here? No, right?
Yeah. No.
Like you just save yourself a massive drop. Right, so now the next time, February 19th, right? You say February 19th, right here, right? Would you be mad if you got out on this day? Right? So, and then this next one, April 17th, April 16th. Just look at April 17th, April 16th. So that should be at the tippity top, right? Would you be mad if you got out of Bitcoin or any other alt that you were in at April 17th?
No.
Oh hell no, right? I'd be laughing to the bank. Yeah. And then the same thing for the last one, right? May 10th. May 10th would be right here, right before the massive drop here. Would you be mad if you got here knowing that this massive?
No.
Not even knowing that this is massive, but it actually occurred. You'd be celebrating. You'd be like, I'm a genius. I got out. So I'll make a separate video on the difference between why here, this one and this one, why it was different for Bitcoin. But essentially, in summary, when Bitcoin makes a final high, then there'll be an alt rally before the next drop. I'll make this as a separate video because it's crucial to understand when to get in and out of crypto if you understand this. So yeah. And then if you go ahead and look at Litecoin, the next two upcoming pullback. So this one was September 5th. So we go ahead and look at September 5th for Bitcoin. September 5th right here. Would you be mad if you got out here?
No.
Of course not, right? And then the last one is November 10th. I remember that day too. I remember all of these days. November 10th. It was like, would you be mad if you got out here? No. Given that what has occurred. Of course not. Yeah. So now we understand that every single date that Litecoin pulls back, Bitcoin pulls back. So we understand that, right?
Yeah.
So now that we got that, now let's just confirm the negative 38% pullback for full bull market. So I'm just going to measure these percentages. And you'll get a sense of like what these percentages should look like. Go ahead and Control Z. Okay, so this one from here to here does a negative 40%. This one from here to here does a negative 27%. 37%. Does a negative 38%. Go ahead and go to the most recent one. I believe a 41%. So every pullback, you understand that Litecoin is more or less done whenever you see Litecoin doing a negative 38, 39, negative 40, negative 41% pullback, right? Yeah. So just keep that in mind. And then for the 70% one. So for the 70% one, I'm just gonna go ahead and just do it and just show you. So from here to here, and then negative 75. Go ahead and draw a line right here. From here to here, negative 71, and then from here to here, negative 75, I believe, negative 76. So I'll explain why this was chosen in a little bit, right? It's like why do you why do you draw from here to here, right? Ultimately, it's a block of every 70%. Yeah. So then if you draw from here to here, I believe this is like 75, 70, 76, and then if you go forward into the future, this should be 78, negative 70, and then if you go forward a couple more times, this most recent one, negative 7%. 75, and I believe this most recent one was at least 70%. So let me just draw this a little bit. I know this one is at least over 70%. 70.28. So now you have a situation where you understand these are the properties. So essentially, what's going to happen is, given the moment in this moment in time right now, right? If Litecoin follow these properties, then the question you have to ask is, if Litecoin continues to drop, if Bitcoin continues to drop, then Litecoin has two versions of where it's going to drop, right? So remember all of these drops, right? What was the most that you remember that approximately where it pulled back around?
Wait a second.
For each of these drop, right? Around negative 7%. What was the most that you saw it drop by?
81, I think.
No, 76. Just try to pay attention. But essentially, it's like the most that Litecoin can drop in two scenarios is 76.
Yeah.
So 76 would be right here.
Yeah.
Or it does the next full block of 70%, right?
Yeah.
So it does the next full block of 70%. So if we drop from here to here, right, and this is the next high, right? So the next time it drops, if it does a full bear market drop, essentially it would go down this floor.
Yeah.
But for me, given that I've been in this market for so long, right? I don't think this is a possibility. Like, I just don't see it going down to this low. Can it go down this low? Yes. This I would rule out, because in order for Litecoin to do an additional 70% from here, Bitcoin would have to go to 20K. And given the logarithmic chart of Bitcoin, the only time that we broke this was in March, and that possibility does not exist, right? Now we're talking about like outside of this logarithmic curve, which is certainly possible, but the odds are so unlikely to the point where I would rule it out as a possibility. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like with anything with trading, nothing is truly impossible. It's a management of odds. It's a management of odds. So for me, I think realistically, if it does want to continue to go down, then the most I can see it go is just 30K, and that should more or less align this down to here, right? It doesn't have to pull the 70%. It can just keep going down, maybe stop here and then go up, right?
Yeah.
So just understand that it must do at least 70%. It must do at least a 38%. It must go up at least 100%, right?
Yeah.
So if we were to reverse from this point forward, then it must do at least 100%, correct? Given that what we have proven.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I noticed during one of my tradings was typically this type of, if we're supposed to get up here, right? I'm going to delete everything. If we're supposed to get up here as the final high for all of crypto, right? We're talking about Bitcoin like 150K, 200K, some crazy number.
Yeah.
This time frame here is usually longer than this time frame. Do you know what I mean? So this typically occurs on Fibonacci time scale. So I'm going to draw a Fibonacci time scale, right? So we can more or less expect it to take as long as June 2023. So we can dance down here all the way until June 2023, right? This part accounts for more than this part. But the other thing to keep in mind is that what I noticed is that this low cannot ever go down to this low. So we can never we can never go down here. We can never go down past this point. In order for us to get up here, if we go down to this point, then essentially you would have to climb up, out, pull back again, and then reclimb it up all the way again.
Yeah.
So if Litecoin goes down to its lows right here, essentially you would have to go like this, pull back, and then go up. So this has to form a higher low. Do you get what I'm trying to get at?
Yeah.
So this cannot go lower than this blue line here. And given this formation, this is how it typically plays out. Like, so my guess is that because Litecoin can't go down low, right? If Litecoin pull down 76%, if Bitcoin pulls 50% from this point forward, right, from 40K, practically 40K down to 20K, you don't think Litecoin is going to pull down a negative 7%? Of course it's going to pull down a negative 7%, right?
Yeah.
So we can essentially rule out the possibility that Bitcoin can go to 20K. It's just not possible. I'm not saying there's like 0%, but it's just I wouldn't bet on that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So what about the near term? How does the near term look like? So one of the things I noticed was that there's this logarithmic trend line, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be just draw we're just gonna draw it linearly because I think it's a better sense. So in this situation, typically what's gonna happen is that it's gonna hit here and then pull back. So in the near term, I do think that we are going to go up. I mean, we could go down and then go up and then break out. Like if we go down here, that's gonna be pretty painful. Where like Bitcoin is gonna go down to 30K. So that would be like a 30% drop, an additional 30% drop, which is not possible, which is not impossible. Is like that's still within the cards. But at that point, you're talking about Litecoin being $60, $50. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So let's just see, right? Let's just see where it's gonna land. Typically, when I see this, right, this doesn't actually go to 0.618. This new version doesn't actually go to. It can, but in this sort of formation, I know it stops at 0.441. It typically stops around 0.441.
Yeah.
So let's just draw that, right? Let's draw that in, and we'll get a sense of like when to expect things to occur. So if we draw that, it's like, okay, now that we draw this, when does it look like that it's gonna start moving up towards? Like it looks like it's start moving up towards now, and it would want to pull back at around May, right? Early May, late April. So remember the rules of Litecoin, right? Per each pump, it must do 100%. Must do 100%, right?
Yeah.
So did it do 100%? Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting, right? It did. So my expectation is that we're actually going to touch this trend line. I don't know if we're going to touch it like in April or whatever, but that's my suspicion. And then pull back 39%. Sorry, 38%, right? So just do a 38% from this point, right? We're gonna stop here, which matches this previous low, right?
Yeah.
And then, so we'll do this pullback. Once we break out of this pullback, that's when the real rally starts. So it is very similar to this point in time. If we draw this logarithmic curve, if we put this on the log chart, right? We draw this trend line. Notice that this is when the real rally happens.
Yeah.
So that is what I suspect to play out. We're heading up to this point, and we're doing a pullback here. You get what I'm trying to get at?
Yeah, yeah.
And then once this logarithmic curve breaks, logarithmic trend line breaks, that's when the real rally starts.
Yeah.
You get what I'm trying to get at?
Yeah, I understand.
So I don't think we're gonna actually start running up until quite a while. Yeah, we're probably gonna go ahead into 2023, like late into 2023 at this point. So we're gonna go up, pull back, dance for here for a little bit, and then break out. That's when we do a full breakout, and that's when we land into June. So it's just gonna, if you extrapolate this amount of time, right, then we'll get over here. So so right now we're probably here, heading over here, and then pull back, and then dance for a little bit before we ultimately break out. So we're just gonna have a huge half a year worth of low and then break out. That's my expectation. Yeah. So that's just what I wanted to show you about, like how you can use Litecoin to sort of measure wherever Bitcoin stops at.